welcome back to Greenlight Cinema. I'm Brandon, the founder, and it's so good to have you guys with me for this exciting episode that I experienced. I don't know how exciting this review is going to be. The episode I just watched was off the chain. Is that still a cool word? A review and type of reaction, I guess you would say, to Fargo Season 4, Episode 5. We're at the halfway point, everybody. Only 5 more to go after this. And I'm telling you, I had my doubts about that last episode because it was good, but it was like slow in some ways. This kicked right off the bat from where like episode 3 left off. It felt like it was a little bit like season 2. You know how season 2 would jump around. I want to share what I thought about this episode. It was really, really good. They start in with like a big break-in kind of. Well, we're at a like jazz club now. Remember, Loy's oldest loves music and jazz, and so him and Leon are there. Well, the police raid the place, like knock out his boy, arrest his men, like Josto ordered, and we see Josto actually across the street with Gaetano. Gaetano pulls off. He's like, I hate that guy, Josto, and he's thinking that like, okay, I'll get Cannon's men locked up. There'll be no more war, and then Gaetano can go back home to Italy. Right after that, Mort Kellerman, actually, that's the guy from season 2 that Dodd murdered. So the Cannon's warehouse gets, busted into. It's crazy. It's like Loy Cannon knows everything about everybody. He tells us stuff about Otis that we didn't know. Otis was a minesweeper. We had that little bust in. We also see that Deffy was kind of casing the joint. Somehow he knew about the Cannon's warehouse or whereabouts. Maybe, I think what it is he's tracking Otis. We see Rabbi, and he's with Mike, and Mike's doing like some division. Kind of need the dialogue to this because they're talking because Josto's like, oh, what's he learning or whatever, and he's like, oh, I'm teaching him about math, and they're having like this little conversation. He's like, Josto mentioned he's not very good at math, which I've noticed in watching a lot of this stuff, Fargo, Boardwalk Empire, all this stuff. If you're not good at math, you're going to be the weak equation, and I guarantee you that Josto is going to get it. He's going to die. We have in our society, I believe, and it's still like this, only the strong survive. I would be dead in a minute if I was in Fargo. But, Gaetano's a strong character. He's a warrior. We don't really exactly like him, but he's kind of like got like a Dodd thing to him, like a conqueror type. Josto walks out of the room, and Rabbi is talking to Sancho / Mike. I believe he's Mike. I want to call him Mike Milligan, so I will call him Mike Milligan. But if I'm proven wrong or otherwise, then I'll say I was wrong. But anyway, look, we got them two kind of talking, and we have a big thing going on here. Like, Rabbi's whole demeanor's changing by the episodes, or by like this episode, he even looked different. So he's like kind of dressed up a little bit nicer. And when Josto walks out of the room and they're talking about, like, he said, when you hear the guns firing or something, you need to take off with me. And what does he mean by that? Like, I got chills. I was like, oh my gosh. I think Milligan wants to kill Josto, and I think that he knows Josto isn't really smart. And I have some theories, but I'm going to share this like toward the end. We see all of Cannon's men and his son locked up. And then, like, Josto comes at him, and, like, he's, like, talking about, like, why is people like a real American crime story? And I really thought at this point, I'm not joking, everyone, at this point, I actually thought he was going to, like, turn a deal, make them switch, do something. I don't know. I don't know how he could have persuaded them. I mean, with money, I don't know. There's always, like, switching little deals in Fargo, so, I mean, I'm not going to get too hung up on that. But no, he just insulted them and was extra mean and probably caused way more animosity. Well, I know he did. And a lot of confusion because Rabbi, like, everyone leaves and then Rabbi's like, hey, he tries to, like, calm everything down. And for a second, it sounds like it. And then he says, they're like, well, just give us back, Sancho or whatever. And he's like, no, that's not going to happen. And he's like, you're all going to die. I was like, whoa, this guy's got plans that we all don't know about all the way yet. it's really fascinating. I guess he's like a big brother, and he's like, you know what? I couldn't get myself out of this bull crap, and if I could have had someone to help me, I wish I could have. And I'm going to be that person from Satcho, and we're going to change his name to Milligan, and we'll call him Mike. I don't know, but I had a lot of theories behind this. I believe that some of the Milligan clan didn't all get murdered. I believe that maybe a mom might still be alive, and I think that's who Barbara Milligan might be, because it does feel a lot like, as time goes on, that Rabbai's more like a big brother to Satcho. Cut to, we see Deafy visiting Otis, and he, trying to get him to talk or whatever. And he said that he talked to God, and God told him to shake down a tree or whatever. And he's like, I've been shaking real hard or something. He's not really getting much out of Otis, but he knows about the whole Minesweeper deal, and we get a little bit of backstory. He had a wife, and a lot of bad stuff happened to her, and I think that he just, after reading that note, just couldn't put things together, because everyone keeps giving him crap about, how he was, so good at clearing out fields and stuff like that, and then one day he just lost it or something. It's really interesting. Like, I don't think that he's the bad guy that a lot of people could see him as. Sure, he's in the organized crime. I didn't like what he did to Cannon's men, but there's still, like, something about him. I don't know. Maybe it's because I like Richard from Boardwalk Empire so much. It's Ethelrita's birthday coming up in this episode, and I forgot what medicine it was, and he was like, oh, are you doing chemistry? And she's like, well, no, actually I'm cleaning the, crazy nurse from, across the road's place. And he was like, oh, kind of like, I think that he doesn't really want her poking around, in her apartment, but she's 17. She kind of goes off and does her own thing. It's kind of neat. She actually got from her dad, like, she was like, so where, what happened to my aunt? And, what's going on? And he's like, he don't tell her much, but I think they're at the hotel something. I forgot what hotel it is. And she goes the next day, and she gets to talk to her aunt, Selmore Roulette. I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing that wrong. And Swanee's like, it's nice. And they let her come in. They all talk, but we get to figure them out a little bit. They're outlaws, and I love that about them. They're not criminals exactly. Now we're at the Smutneys, and decorating, cake and happy birthday. And Lloyd knocks on the door. Thurman just seen him the previous night or whatever. He's got Zero with him. We're starting to see how cold he really is, and it's a weird thing. Like, Lloyd's not a really likable character. Saying, please, boss, don't murder me. He's like, give him, he's like, does that look like my son? But then at the same time, he's like, get him some cake. I like that. I thought that was kind of, made me laugh a little bit to myself. Cut to, we're at the school again, and Deafy came to Ethelrita's school. And he's like bullying her and trying to kind of like, not being too harsh, but a little bit. Like, it's just so weird. Like, I don't know, he's just an odd character. That's the best way I can put him. And he, just trying to get everything he can out of her. He scares her, I think, or I'm sure, because he gets a location of where her aunt is. Then we see, Gaetano and Calamito on ice. I was wondering, when is it going to come? And it finally did. He slips and falls on ice, busts his butt, and he kind of laughs it off. Kind of like, they're going to go somewhere to talk, and I guess it wasn't to his liking, but he's like not sweeping the floor right. This was not the right thing to do to Gaetano. That's when he was like, okay, he's like, that walkway you didn't clear out. He's like, in Italy, they would have cleared that out. He's like, you sweep like terrible. They would have swept better in Italy. He's like, we pay you to do things, you do them right. This coffee is terrible, So he shoots up the place. We see Calamito and Dr. Sandler, they're talking. And, the exchange here is, really interesting, I guess. But, I was like, ugh. It just got, really, ugh. It got really... I don't know what was going to happen next. But then again, you kind of do. Even the waitress, Nadine, she seems like she's kind of, on edge and freaked out. He turns around, heads to his car. Wrong thing to do. Wrong thing to ever do, right? In any show, turn around while people have guns. So they murder my favorite character in episode 5. And I'm going to keep watching it, though. I still have more favorite characters. I just can't think of any right off because that was just... I seen it coming. I told someone, I was like, look, the level-headed characters, they're going to be cut off. Loy is like... He is on that roller coaster, and he's on that ride, and he is not jumping off till it's over with. And I mean, and Josto's right on that roller coaster with him, but like on a cocaine-filled roller coaster, wanting to murder a hospital administrator. Oh, we got to see a little bit of the nurse in this episode, but not much. But yeah, so that was how this episode ended, kinda. And also with Loy and the Cannon Men kind of all looking around at Dr. Sandler and the tragic thing that happened. So yeah. Before I end this episode, and I just want to say that this episode, it was breathtaking. It was seriously is my favorite episode, other than episode 3 of season 4 of this season. Oh gosh, it was great. But anyway, I made just a little thing. It's in pencil and it looks terrible, but I'm sorry. I had to make what I call the Fargo verse. And, in theory, it's a Fargo verse with theories. And it all goes back to where all this... look, let's start with the Irish and the Milligans. And we see this from the 1920s, and went to 1950 with then the Italians, then Cannon. Also, I put Mark Kellerman, because he's involved in this too. What I believe is going to happen is that Loy is going to get Mark Kellerman and his men to calm down. And I think that's where they're going to get acquainted a little bit with the Gerhardts. Because I brought this up in the last episode. I think the Gerhardts are going to be coming. I'm not sure in what way. Maybe that truck and that one scene with Mark Kellerman. Maybe that's all we needed. And that, for me, was a fan. I jumped off the couch when I seen him. So then, we got ties to Kansas City. But here's the thing. The first, it was Dieter. Then, it was Dieter Gerhardt. Then, we had Mark Kellerman that took over. Then 1951, Dodd stabs him in the freaking back, and Otto, the father, they clear out the place, murdering everyone. So it's the Gerhardts from the 50s to the 1979, in which case Kansas City takes over. Then it becomes new territory because we have a divide, because Hansi had kind of went over to Kansas City, or helped Kansas City get rid of the Gerhardts. But he starts his own operation in Fargo. So he is the quintessential last boss, possibly. But he also ties in with Mr. Wrench, or Mr. Wrench and Mr. Numbers. Mr. Numbers, we know, was murdered in season 1. But how all this ties in with the rest of it is, let's go, since we talked about the 70s, let's go to 1987. And this is something I've already talked about, but I want to bring up again. The parking lots. That was brought up in 1987, yes, in the movie of Fargo. Now, I believe that Jerry Lumbergard seen a sign with a young Emmett Stussy, or Stussy Lots Limited, and had the idea of lots. And, maybe I'll get rid of my wife, maybe get this money, and get his capital rolling, so to speak. So that's where that plays, in fact. Also, with Season 2, we had a little bit of technology coming in. With Season 3, it was all about technology. And Varga could hack into people's things, know everything about them. So that crosses over into this. Also, I have a part where it's called Supernatural or just Coincidences. And I don't know if Varga's part of the supernatural element, but it seems kind of like it. In Season 1, it's like, either fate will cause characters to die, or just odd occurrences, anomalies, whatever you have. And then, also I'll put the UFO, also this demon character. There's always something supernatural and different that we just cannot explain, that's fascinating in Fargo. And so, but yeah, I put Varga right here because, is he real? He just disappears, right? Or fades out in the last episode of Season 3. Will he ever pop back up? Or can he pop up in another timeline in 1950? I know this sounds so crazy, but we've seen a lot of insane things on Fargo, and none of it would look weird or awkward at this point. It actually feels like it would line up and make sense. And also, we see the whole Hess company truck, I have a feeling that that's Mark Kellerman's whole operation. It was the Gerhardts. Then it became Hansi Dent's, which he later changed his name to Moses Tripoli's. So Moses Tripoli is, trucking industry or Hess's industry. It all ties, connects, and together. Now season 1 is kind of like its own thing in some weird way. But there is a little tie to Kansas City right here because Lauren talks about it. Now, I have a theory, and I've seen a few other people expand on this theory, that possibly the nurse, Orietta Mayflower, could be Lauren Malbo's mom. They got this like facial expressions that look the same, and just they're both odd characters, but they're very different though. She's like a serial killer and he's like a hitman. Well, that's exactly what they are, but they just got something about them that reminds me, I don't know, where all this going to go. And again, Zero and Mike, I don't know where to put them at. We're going to figure it out later eventually, but I have all this in pencil. It looks terrible, yes, but I'm still working on it. If I'm being honest with you, is Mr. Wrench. I think that we've already seen the ending to all of this. We just needed the origin story. Where did it all start from? Where did it all come from? But it ends with Mr. Wrench in season 3. But I hope that you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you guys enjoy these Fargo reaction and review episodes. I'm going to continue to finish the season, Lord's willing, and I hope you guys will continue to stay tuned. Please like and subscribe if you guys hadn't already, and thank you for watching my YouTube videos and channel. Thanks, guys. Bye.